In Jeremiah chapter 21, verse 8, it is written, "Behold, I set before you the way of life, but also the way of death," are very biblical. There are many interpretations of this. I believe, it is my interpretation, that this is in reference to the first rule, God the Almighty Father, that is recorded that he gives to the first humans, Adam and Eve. Thou shalt not eat of the fruit of the garden. It's the first thing he says to Adam and Eve. Thou shalt not eat of the fruit of the garden. And it is said, there are many interpretations of this, that this is analogous to orgasm and ejaculation. Now, for some of you unfamiliar with the particular idea, if you've read any of Julian Lee's work, or it might be Blake, I'm sure you're familiar with the particular concept. But the idea of eating of the fruit of knowledge is that you now have the knowing of the ecstasy of orgasm to the point where you're always going to be chasing it. You know, once you've experienced something in life, it's almost a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing in that way that you have opened your eyes and you can see, you have the knowledge. But in another lens, another perspective, it's kind of that ignorance is bliss idea. Now you're going to be spending your days chasing this particular thing. All of your North Stars have now been orientated and skewed. And in that way, you cannot live in that bliss. You cannot live in Eden anymore. So he cast them out. But in that way, you have free will. You have free will to orientate yourself towards whatever you so desire. But for most people, it's typically revolving around sex. Man and woman can use sexual intercourse and the delights of love and kisses in order to become gods or demons. So there is a distinction he makes between the black magician and the white magician. So from the dawn of life, a great battle has raged between the powers of light and the powers of darkness. The secret root of that battle lies in sex. As with anything, I mean, if you look about the world today, if you just scroll on Instagram, your social media devices, if you look at marketing and the advertisement that you see in your TV, or maybe if you even still read newspapers or scroll on X, the agenda is very, very clear. It's not too difficult. You don't need me to convince you of it. You see. The correct interpretation of the mysteries of sex exists. The white magicians never ejaculate the semen. The black magicians, on the other hand, they do the opposite. White magicians make the igneous spirit of our magical powers ascend through the medulla canal. The black magicians make the snake descend towards the atomic infernos of the human being. Another way of interpreting this is that this energy can go heaven bound or it can go earth bound. You create on different levels. There's reproduction. Well, most people aren't using this for reproduction, let's be honest. You can reproduce on the atomic level, or you can reproduce on, a spiritual level, a psychic level, a mental level, whatever your personal interpretation of that is. The great battle takes place in the astral light. The astral light is the deposit of all nature's past, present, and future. The astral light is the azoth and the magnesia of ancient alchemist, Medea's flying dragon, the Christian's INRI, the tarot of the Bohemians. The astral light is a terrific sexual fire springing forth from the sun's nimbus and is fixed to earth by the force of gravity and the weight of the atmosphere. The sun is the one that attracts and repels such an enchanting and delightful light. The astral light is Archimedes' lever. The old sage said, "Give me a fulcrum and I will move the world." It's a pretty powerful analogy, equating sexual energy, sexual power, continence to this idea of having more leverage. I definitely think it is true in my personal experience of it. But I did want to leave you with a really profound thing that you'll experience. And I don't think I've talked about this before. Probably within maybe the first 2 or 3 or 4 days, if you practice this, or if you're just curious about it, which is this idea that was mentioned formerly about astral light. So the semen is a human being's astral liquid. It is astral light. It is the key to all powers and the key to all empires. This astral light has two poles, one positive and the other negative. The ascending serpent is positive and the descending is negative. When it ascends, it is the brazen serpent that healed the Israelites in the wilderness. When it descends, it is the tempting of the serpent of Eden. So I want to bring reference to that, particular word, astral. If you experience, like I said before, even 2 days of deliberate control and deliberate fasting from pleasure and continence, your dreams become eerily vivid. Like it's almost like, I don't know if anybody's ever taken ZMA, zinc magnesium, but your dreams just become it's almost like you lucid dream without even trying. And your memory recall is so much more astute. You have those moments when you're trying to recall dreams and they're slipping through your fingertips. And as much as you try to remember them, they start to fall away more and more. But you start to have this tremendous recall, and the tone, at least in my experience, is a lot more. It's a lot more realistic in the sense that there seems to be a narrative and a dialogue that whoever it may be, whatever parties are involved, are trying to open up to you in that way that your dreams don't feel random and sporadic. It almost feels like there is a deity or a force or a party that is trying to convey a particular message to you. And in that way, it's interesting how a lot of people say they become a little bit more spiritual on this journey. And I believe that this is one of the mediums in which has more tangibility to it. And again, this is the most real thing that happens to you when you experience this. Your dreams just become psychedelic and so like you'll wake up from the middle of a dream and maybe cry or get these really intense feelings of motivation and you're doing the right thing. Like my most recent one was this idea on reincarnation and the idea of you experiencing, you being a soul experiencing multiple incarnations to benefit the soul's evolution, and the difficulty that my human ego may have in being at peace with that idea that Joseph is just a body and then I'm gonna throw him away. And there are particular faults and flaws in my life that I designed prior to my knowledge to experience. But coming back to that place in my dreams is a similar place, and it almost feels like home. And just a kind of reassurance from, if you believe in spirit guides or entities or personalities or deities, just going, look, this was all planned. I know it may seem scary when you're in the thick of it, when you're in the 3D and you're in the game and everything feels so real and you start to panic maybe and you might go insane, but just stop, breathe. You'll get through this moment like you've got through every other moment. You've never not made it. The worst is behind you in that way. And I just woke up from that dream with this just overwhelming reassurance that irrespective of those moments of panic and duress, that you're walking that line, you're walking your Dharma in the way that you were supposed to. And although it might not seem to a human ego that your life is perfect, it's not supposed to be that way. Like, we have ideas in our head of what a successful life looks like, and it's usually draped with materialistics and trappings of success and cars and lots of women and things like that. That may be one of your carnations, one of the things that your consciousness needs to experience in this life, and that's fine. But in this incarnation right now, that might not be what you designed to be true. Like, I think it might be particularly hard for somebody who's maybe not in a very privileged position at the moment to realize it, and that's okay, that's fine. I think in my position, when I experience or recall and reflect on some of the really, really troubling things that have happened to me in my life, they've always lended to this particular premise that I'm trying to convey to you, which is why I think I can palate it a little bit more. But I to not get away from the point, because that was my particular message, is your sexuality has a power that goes beyond the physical. And I've lived this, I've experienced this, I've shared this with you. And if there is a benefit, everybody's marketing the benefits. So there's a benefit that I would market to you that serves as good rationality to where you are as that. And you don't have to believe me, you can experience this for yourself. There are forces out there, not even on this realm, on this 3D realm, but upper, lower, trans-dimensional, that are on your side. And you can better receive information from them when you have astral light, which is through the medium of being continent. And whether that has some kind of basis in the electromagnetic field that you're emitting because your hormones are in check and your spinal cord is filled with those electrons and protons and lecithin and this has a basis in biology which may give rise to something that science has not yet been able to quantify. I don't know, but I can tell you it's real, and that's not a theory, that's a fact. Speak soon.